Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Jess De Los Santos. As hospitals continue to operate at full capacity, an infectious disease expert urges those with mild symptoms to isolate at home. But DOH Technical Advisory Group member Dr. Anna Ong Lim said there are requirements when isolating a COVID-19 patient from the entire household. For starters, she said that a COVID-positive family member should have his own room and bathroom. Patients under home quarantine should also not have any difficulty in breathing and has an oxygen saturation of at least 94%. Other members of the household should wear face masks and implement social distancing even inside their homes.
This figure shows us maybe an exaggerated implementation, no? Because in most cases, we only suggest or we only recommend that the carer should be wearing a mask and perhaps a shield without any more outfits, no? However, if this is available, then this can be helpful as well so that we try to contain the spread. So hopefully, if you implement home care for people in your family, you actually won't need to even do this because all you need to do is to leave stuff at the door and they can just pick it up and fend for themselves.
The infectious disease expert also said household members should monitor their COVID-positive housemate and know when to bring them to hospital if their situation worsens. She then advised families to contact a physician to determine if the patient needs to be admitted to a hospital.
Now, home-based care, of course, should be provided by a healthcare worker if possible, but we know that in many instances that just cannot happen anymore because of the severe shortage of healthcare workers that's currently happening. Now, if it is a civilian or a layperson who is providing care, then you need to be able to open lines of communication between the caregiver and a trained healthcare worker or public health personnel. This has to be established so that should there be any emergency, the channels of communication are already open. And these channels can be by various means.
Netizens slammed the alleged preferential treatment of presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. This after the spokesman revealed that he had been admitted in a hospital amid reports of full and even overcapacity in some medical institutions. Some netizens shared anecdotes of getting sent away and refused admission in a hospital while the spokesperson seemingly secured a room in his snap. Some say they've even lost friends and family members who were not admitted and thus did not receive medical attention. One netizen could not contain his anger, saying his dad is still queued for admission to the hospital while Roque seemingly jumped the line. Others said their loved ones were discouraged to try receiving hospital care upon seeing how long the waiting list is. Still, many wished for Roque to get well soon so that other people may have the chance to be hospitalized. Lastly, some netizens hoped that Roque experienced how hard it is for typical patients to be admitted, saying it would be a huge eye-opener for the spokesperson. Meanwhile, Palace spokesperson Harry Roque says he is now feeling better. Roque admitted that he was hospitalized due to COVID-19 a few weeks after he said he was not infected with the virus. Roque did not specify which hospital admitted him, but sources say he was brought to the PGH, which is supposedly a no-walk-in referral hospital reserved for serious infections. Earlier today, Roque posted an update on his third day of hospitalization on Facebook, saying he is already feeling normal after his bout of pneumonia due to COVID-19. He assured that he is well enough to handle his thrice-a-week briefings. The spokesperson added that he will remain confined until Thursday. National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana held a teleconference with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin III earlier today. The two defense chiefs discussed the situation on the West Philippine Sea and recent developments in regional security. The U.S. Defense Secretary again expressed hopes that the abrogated VFA be continued. Lorenzana said he will continue to discuss the matter with the chief executive. The local defense chief likewise sought the assistance of Austin in expediting the delivery of Moderna vaccines ordered by the Philippines. Now, before this teleconference, the Defense Department says only 32 Chinese vessels remain stationed around the Julian Felipe Reef. In a report from the Philippine Star, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said that from 220 vessels, the number went down to 32 in the past 3 days. Lorenzana adds that it is good that China followed their request to remove their ships from the reef. He also said that they will continue to ask them for the removal of any remaining ships except for a maximum of 3 vessels allowed to be stationed in the area. This comes after the 220 Chinese vessels spotted in the reef resulted in a world war between Lorenzana and the Chinese embassy. 94 more railway personnel tested positive for COVID-19 as it continues its mass testing for employees in the rail lines. The Transportation Department says this brings the total number of cases among railway employees to 630. MRT3 has the most number of confirmed cases with 206 personnel infected with the virus, followed by PNR with over 157 cases and LRT2 with 144. LRT1 has the least number of infected employees with 123 COVID-19 infections. Despite this, PNR announced that it would resume train trips on Monday, but assured that only employees who tested negative for the virus will report to work. Around 15% of Parañaque healthcare workers are still on the fence about receiving COVID-19 shots. Parañaque Mayor Edwin Olivares said most of those refusing to be vaccinated are barangay and city health workers. According to Olivares, one big reason for their refusal is brand preference, since so far only Sinovac is available to healthcare workers and persons with comorbidities. Olivares shares that the city can vaccinate up to 7,000 people a day and may ideally achieve herd immunity once 70% of the city's 700,000 population has been vaccinated. Over in Navotas City, COVID-19 protocol violators are penalized not with fine or community service, but free swab tests. Speaking to One News Now, Navotas City Mayor Toby Chanco said the ordinance will expedite the process of testing and tracing residents who may be infected with COVID-19. Chanco explained that violators will undergo immediate RT-PCR testing if apprehended while testing centers are open. Otherwise, violators have to make themselves available for swab testing the following day.
Kailangan po makaiksi yung proseso dahil napakalaki ng chance na yung mga hindi sumusunod ay COVID positive. Kaya po, once nag-violate po sila, ipapa-RT-PCR test na kagad para malaman kung sila ay positive o hindi at para hindi na sila makapaghawa ng iba pang tao.
A labor group is appealing for additional cash assistance for workers and their families if ever the ECQ and NCR Plus areas will be extended. The Associated Labor Unions Trade Union Congress of the Philippines said that the government will have a hard time keeping people within the bubble without additional cash assistance. They said that desperate workers will now take great risk of foraging for food despite the risks of getting infected with COVID-19. The group adds that delays in the distribution of the 4,000 peso cash aid has made the lockdown even more difficult for many people. The president has yet to decide on the extension of the ECQ in Metro Manila and nearby provinces after it ends today. Former U.S. Attorney General and human rights activist Ramsey Clark has passed away. He was 93. Clark was a human rights icon who represented several infamous political leaders, such as Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and Iraq's Saddam Hussein. Clark was one of the architects of the landmark Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act in the U.S. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again later at 2:15 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.